series, we've got a couple of special guests. First sisters that we've had on, definitely, 100%. We have Beth and Ellie. You will see them on SAS Who Dares Wins. So I think, Ellie, you got nominated to introduce yourself before we got off the last time. So do you want to give it another go?
Yes, I'm Ellie Gregor. I'm 26 from Cornwall and I'm a solicitor. I do a lot of CrossFit and I'm on SAS Who Dares Wins.
Nice.
And I'm Beth. I'm 28 and I'm an art teacher. And I was also on SAS Who Dares Wins, and I also compete in CrossFit too.
Nice.
Well, first big question: what made you guys want to go on SAS Who Dares Wins?
I've watched it since series 1, and I was one of the first to apply out of the two of us. And I let Ellie know that I applied, and basically she was like, we do a lot of things together, and she wanted to do it because I was also doing it. And we just like to challenge ourselves a lot, and it seemed like one of the biggest challenges you can go for, really. We compete a lot in CrossFit, and that physically challenges me a lot, and I wanted to see how I would handle being taken more out of my comfort zone, where I'm not in control of like the nutrition and the sleep and all that sort of stuff that I'm normally really in control of. So, and like that mental test too.
So is keeping fit and exercise something that you both have done from a young age, or was that something?
Yeah, we've always been really, really athletic. I think in primary school we did like all of the sports, like cross country running, athletics, netball, football, cricket. So I think just from having that from an early age, it's like carried us all the way through to being a hobby now.
We were pretty much like the athletics team at one point, like me and Ellie. She took all of the like shot put, throw in events and the long distance running, and I took like the long jump and the shorter distance sprinting, and got like all of the medals between us. But actually, I haven't always been fit and healthy. I had like a little blip 2014 to 2016. I sort of lost my way a bit because I was quite severely depressed and gained a lot of weight, and I was 18 stone in the end. So I've had quite a weight loss journey from there to where I am now.
Wow.
Well,
So
definitely gone, James, after you, sorry.
You know, one of you, Beth, you're an art teacher.
Yeah.
You're a solicitor. I don't know if there's two different careers, even though you sound similar in terms of what you do outside of work, but try to understand what your personalities are like, if they're separate in a bit more.
Yeah, they are very different careers, I suppose. Like I've always done art, but I always hated it. I'm quite good at it, but I hate it. I'm just more, I need like structure. I'm like very planned and calculated, where I think Beth is completely different. She's very sporadic and I was an artist for a bit. I trained in art, and then I went down a route of I was like achieving my dream of what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be an artist and a jeweler and like selling work that way, and it turned out I didn't actually want to do that. I was like achieving that goal and I hated it, and that's actually what started the sort of spiral down into like bad mental health. And then from that I started working in schools. I was like a teaching assistant for a bit, and then I qualified as a teacher, and now the two have come together because I teach in a school that's like a mental health school. Where I teach art to kids that struggle with mental health issues. So it's, I've kind of gone with the flow more than Ellie has. But
What's it like when you start? What was your first reactions when you started to achieve your dream and you didn't actually feel fulfilling? Because we've heard it loads on this podcast.
Have you? Oh, that's interesting. Well, like everybody else was really pleased with me as well, because it was all going in the right direction and all my work was getting picked up by galleries. I went to London Fashion Week. I remember that was the defining moment when I was like, this is actually not what I want at all. Which it's mad, because that would be huge for people. And I've only really realised this recently, actually, since the show, that's kind of the point. And I had a really awful relationship that I spoke about on the show as well, that was kind of around that time, and just my life just sort of fell apart at that point, because I was achieving what I wanted to achieve, but it wasn't what I wanted. And then everything around the outside of that was awful as well. So
So on that then, well, to kind of spin back off to exercising and training, why do you guys do it? Is it fitness, feel good, look good? What are the core reasons of why you guys train?
Like, it's a hobby for us, really. I think
And CrossFit is somewhere, not at the moment, obviously, but where we go to see most of our friends and train with them and keep fit. And I also think it does help my like mental state. If I don't go for a couple of days, I feel really down, and like just going to the gym after work, like it kind of de-stresses me. And as well as being a hobby, it just keeps like everything else in check, I think.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. Like I started it because Ellie actually helped me get into fitness again because of the depression, and that's how I got out of that and how I lost all the weight. But it's become like it maintains my mental health for me, and I also just like how it makes me feel. I like being strong. I've always been quite a tall girl, and I've been quite heavy, and that's not sat well with me for a long time. And then CrossFit came along, and it made me like proud of my broad shoulders and proud to be tall and happy that I was strong, and it made me more pleased with what my body could do rather than what it looked like, because I was unhappy with that. And that's the thing about CrossFit, is it's not about appearance or physique, or none of it is physique focused. There are no mirrors in the gym. It's all about like how much weight can you lift, how much effort can you put in, how fast can you run, can you do gymnastics. I love that about it.
What was it, Ellie? What was it like to see your sister going through a hard time, and then when did you consciously try to reintroduce fitness back into her life?
It was really difficult because she was so self-destructive, and more than that, she was just angry all the time. So anything we tried to do to help her, she would just kind of snap at us. And at the time, we had no idea like what was going on with her really, and she was just so closed off. You couldn't really get through to her at all. And then we just kind of tried to slowly introduce things to her that we knew she used to enjoy. Like she's always enjoyed sports, so we just like got her in our home gym and was like, oh, just like pick that bar up off the floor and just do a deadlift. And like she was instantly good at it, which I think kind of grabbed her interest. And then it was just like a spiral from there, which kind of helped her. It was really difficult to get her to do that first step and get her into the gym because she was just so closed off to everything. She was like, oh no, it's boring, I don't want to do that, I don't want to just be in the gym kind of thing. And anything we'd do, she'd kind of find an excuse for it. So it was quite difficult to get her to do that first step, but once we had her in there, she was almost hooked again.
It's mad because I have no memory of that, of them. I literally feel like I went straight into it. I have no memory of that period of my life almost when I was depressed or being snappy or any of that, or trying to find a way out of it. I was just so unhappy that I was almost unaware of how I was reacting, I think. Yeah, and I didn't find out until recently that they came up with that plan to get me into the gym. I just thought I'd like walked into their gym one day, which is mad. But
no, I think we might have lost Ellie there.
Where's she gone?
I don't know.
Oh no, she's back.
Hello.
I was going to say it's quite rare to get a dynamic where you see two perspectives of the same situation.
Yeah.
Like it's so rare. Like we've never ever been able to sit with people that people have either like struggled with their mental health. It's common within everyone, to be honest. People struggle to different degrees, but it's obviously it's an individual battle. But you never get the other side of it, of like what's it like to be around a person that you're close to that is suffering, because that dynamic is like perception is reality.
Yeah.
Not as well.
Now actually I'm around a lot of obviously kids that struggle with their mental health, and I see me in them, like they snap at us and they like react in ways they're out of control of their emotions, and that's because they're struggling. And it's given me that perspective on other people because I've been there, I've been that person, and it's given me more empathy. And instead of seeing it as like a negative behavior or someone being horrible, I can see that it's them struggling. It's an issue that's going on with them, and I need to help them with that rather than be annoyed at them for getting angry. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. So when did you apply to go on SAS? Like
I think it was like May, was it, Beth?
I think it was February last year. I think. Yeah, like straight away, because I actually tried to apply the series before when the first series I had women on it, but I'd literally just missed the deadline. I got an email back like, we'll put you in for the first. So they sent me an email out as soon as last year's application went out, and then I applied straight away.
Okay.
And what was that process like? Did Do they tell you you're in, or what's the actual process once you enter your name?
So long.
Not even to put her on the plane. We're like, oh, you could have been dropped at any time. It was mad.
Yeah, there were so many different stages as well. Like the first stage was you had to go up to London to do like a physical test and then have some interviews, and then it just seemed to go on, and then they'd ask more questions, and then we wouldn't really know what's happening for a couple of months, and then we get a call say, oh, we need you in London to do more fitness tests, and it went on forever. And like Beth said, up until the day we were actually leaving for the airport, we didn't really know where we were going.
Wow. And do you see the fitness tests that they make you do when you were there? Does that compare to anything that you do when you're actually?
No,
No?
no, but it was hard, but it was quite hard because me and Ellie, because we're in Cornwall, we had to come up to London and we drove. Ellie drove, but it was like the hottest day of the year. It was like 36 degrees, no joke, and we had like 500 ml of water and a couple of protein bars in the car, nothing else. And then the M5 was shut, all the roads were shut, accidents everywhere. It took us 7 hours, and we couldn't stop the whole time. And we got there, it was literally like a couple minutes to 4, and we had to go straight in for our bleep test at 4 o'clock, dehydrated and starving.
Straight out the car.
That's your first test then?
Yeah. And we cried. So
Nice.
that is a point though. I think they find it quite difficult to get women that can pass the physical fitness test, because it's the men's military fitness test, so it's not made, women aren't supposed to be able to pass it, or it's debatable. And there weren't many. We went into a room when we'd passed or failed, and there weren't many women in the room. There was a lot of men, but it's the first, if you don't pass the fitness test, you don't move on. So
Right. So when you guys did get to the airport, what was the mindset like for both of you? Scared, nervous? What were going?
I was just really excited, actually. I wasn't really nervous. It still kind of hadn't hit home, but I was just excited to get on with it, because it had been such a long time coming, because it's like, oh, are we going? Aren't we going? And then like when we were finally there, it's like, oh, actually, like they can't say that we're not going anymore. And it was just exciting.
They took our phones off us as well, and like they even separated me and Ellie, and like we had to sit at opposite ends of the aeroplane, which was mad. Me and Elle just kept giving each other like sneaky looks, like we're in, this is it.
Yeah, that was really odd actually, because we were just put on a plane with no hand luggage, and we were just like sat on our own with nobody around us, with no hand luggage. And then a lady would come over and she would ask us if we'd like wanted anything to drink, and she'd give us like cash. So I think people probably thought we were like marshals or prison people or something. I have no idea.
Something like that.
And the show was set up in Scotland this time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I watched it and it looked fucking horrible. Like, so was it really raining every day?
Oh no, it was sunny, and we were like, please be like this the whole time, and then it just torrential tipped it down.
Storm. Like thunder and lightning storms, like almost blown off a mountain at one point. It was horrific.
Log test, that was so dangerous. Like that log was really heavy, and we were like on the side of a mountain, like gale force winds, and we could hear people saying, this is getting dangerous, we need to like change it up a bit. Oh yeah, it was very bad.
When you first get there, what's it like? When do they make that switch of, oh, I've been on a plane, I can have a cup of tea and a coffee, to, oh shit,
we were shit together
days before, actually. So like we didn't know, we were just like waiting, and then were we told? I can't remember if we were told. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning that we had to go somewhere, but I'm not sure we were told that was the moment we were going.
Yeah, so we were like put in a hotel on our own, and each of us were in an individual room. And then I think they said, right, you've got to be ready tomorrow morning, 3 a.m, we're going. And that's all we really knew. But that was like, so we arrived and we had like a day and a half in a hotel. And then we were told, like, we're going, like, they didn't tell us when we got there, oh, you'll be going in 2 days. So we were kind of just there in a hotel room, like, we'll be going soon. We don't really know when. It was all we didn't know anything. It was cloak and dagger the whole time. It was just waiting for an instruction.
Yeah. Me and Ellie did some research though. We went down, we like snuck down to the lobby and got all the maps out and tried to figure out what islands were nearby and where we might be going. That was quite fun. They didn't like that though. They were annoyed at us at all.
Was any of the intel you looked at correct in terms of what you were going to be doing? Yeah?
Yeah. I knew exactly where we were going. I'd worked it out before we even got to the airport. Inspector Clouseau, really.
That must be your organised side coming out, like you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Where you going?
It used to be when Beth used to get boyfriends, I'd be like, right, tell me their name, and then I'd find out everything about them. I would know like where they live, what their hair colour was, what their shoe size was. Literally, I would know everything just from their name. And it was kind of the same like with this. I honed in on one thing, and then I knew like every detail of where we were going. And they told us which airport we were flying from, and I was like, right, it's definitely that then, because they've got a flight at this time to Inverness, so it must be true.
Nice. So first impressions once you're actually in the, I want to call it a camp, makes it sound too nice, but let's say camp. What was the first impressions?
We were relieved to get there because we had the speedboat. We were on the speedboat for a good hour and a half, I think, just in pitch black, 3 a.m, going nowhere. We didn't know where we were going. And then we met the DS before that, and they chucked us all off a speedboat. We had to swim to shore and then do a beasting. So we didn't even, it was so long before we even got to camp. It was mad. But yeah, it was a relief to get there.
I remember now, you all got chucked off the boats. What's it? We had a guy on the podcast called George King, and he climbed the Shard with no safety equipment. He used to do ice baths and then visualize climbing the Shard to kind of counteract that distraction or fear when he would be up there. So I just want to ask you guys, what's it like being in ice cold water for the first time?
Well, we're quite used to like water anyway, because we're in Cornwall and we've done a lot of sea sports and things like that, but it was freezing. And it was more the fact that you're on a speedboat going like 65 miles an hour in like the open wind for an hour and a half, and then you're in cold freezing water, and then you can't change your clothes, so you can't get warm, so you're just constantly wet and cold and miserable. So it's like accumulation of all those things that made it so bad.
Yeah.
And was there any times that your mind where you start to question yourself of why I signed up for this at all?
No, not once.
Oh.
I tried not to think about it too much. Anything they told me to do, I would just be like, right, I've got to do that now. And I wouldn't think too far ahead. It would just be like, take one little thing at a time, and everything they said, don't question it, just do it without thinking. And I think that's why I got so far, because quite a lot of people would actually VW when they gave us an instruction, because they wouldn't like the thought of it. And quite often they wouldn't actually make us do it. So we were like on the shore at one time, and they were like, right, now face the direction you're going. And it was like a speedboat, like 200 meters away in the water. So like you're thinking in your head, I've got to swim to that speedboat, and I've been sat here like 3 hours, I'm freezing cold, I'm never going to do it. And someone like VW'd at that point, and we never actually had to swim to the speedboat. It was just them trying to get into our head, trying to make us think like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think we get that from CrossFit though, because I remember Ellie at that moment being a couple feet from me, and I could feel it, like she was ready to go, and so it was like, we were gonna do that swim if it killed us. Like, it was happening. And I feel like there were a few other people there that didn't have the same thing, and obviously she didn't, but it's like, we get that from CrossFit. If the workout's in front of you, you've got your instruction, we're doing it, there's no question. So I had the same attitude, really.
Nice. Because we've actually had quite a lot of people from SAS, and everyone's like mindset on when they're doing stuff is kind of different. And then we obviously had Phil Turner on, that is one of the camera directors. And he was saying like he can kind of see it in people because he gets to watch it like firsthand. Like,
he's a badass as well. Like, he's so fit, running around with that camera, like doing everything we're doing, but
backwards.
Yeah.
No, Phil's a legend, to be fair. He'll probably watch this, so shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil. I actually put him over at one point. He was a bit mad at me.
What happened?
Because he was running in front of me. So I was like, I can't remember what I was carrying. I think it was a person. And he had like his camera right in front of me. So I pushed him out of the way. And he was like, "Don't push me." I was like, "I'm sorry."
And he's quite scary too. Like he looks like a military man. He's in full camo, so you're like, "Oh, sorry."
So you guys had to. I think the one of the worst challenges is the fighting. I don't know what they call it, if they got a name for it.
Milling. It's called the
Milling.
millings. It's not even boxing because you're not really allowed to like dodge and defend yourself.
Yeah.
Brawl.
So do you want to talk us through that? Because Beth, you got paired with
With the mole.
Oh yeah, exactly. So he's like
Yeah.
a guy.
How did you feel about that when they matched you up with him?
Well, I thought he was a window salesman at the time, so I didn't feel too bad about it. Like going in, like I'm gonna have him.
We both work in sales, by the way, just to let you know.
Huh?
We both work in sales.
No, that's something against sales.
It's sound. We get it all the time.
I didn't know he was an SAS operative, is what I mean. But yeah, no, it's quite clear he'd done a bit of fighting before, like after a couple of punches. But they didn't, in fairness, they didn't show all the punches I got in. Like I gave him a black eye and I ripped into him for that the day after, because it was like you could see it. And I don't think he liked that very much. But yeah, I fought back and it was scary going against a guy because I've had that experience of like ex-boyfriends and I've never really fought back, and I know that's why they did that to me. They put me against him to sort of tackle those demons in a weird way, and it really worked for me, and I fought back and I gave it everything, so I'm proud of myself and I'm not annoyed at them for doing it or anything. I'm actually glad they did. I wouldn't have wanted to fight any of the women, and I thought that they would put me against Ellie and I would have hated that. So yeah,
that was our biggest fear with that task, actually, because like throughout the interviewing process they were like, how would you feel if you get put with Beth? And I was like I just wouldn't want to, because I felt like it wouldn't really be the purpose of milling, because you wouldn't go against someone who is your sister or like your best friend or something. So although we would have done it, we were dreading it.
And I said I was gonna pick a guy to sort of get out of that situation as well.
Yeah.
Give them something better than me fighting my sister. That was my plan, and then they picked for us, so I didn't have a choice either way.
Yeah. Nice. What was it like to watch your sister fight a guy, Ellie?
It was quite difficult, like just because of her past and everything. But quite a lot of the footage was actually took after my fight, so I was like quite beaten up and spaced out anyway. So when you see me like in a mess, that was because I'd just been pummeled. But it was really difficult watching Beth, and I was like, my emotions were high anyway, because more than anything I was relieved that they hadn't picked me. So although she was fighting a guy and I knew it'd be hard for her because of her background, actually I know she can handle herself, and she's probably more suited to fighting a guy, because she would have pummeled any woman there. Like I would have been scared for the other woman put against her.
I wouldn't have wanted to do it. I wouldn't have wanted to fight any of them. I can't think of any of the women there that I would have wanted to fight.
Maybe Carla.
Yeah, Carla's a badass. She's a badass. Yeah. She's taller than me too, so.
Who were the other members in your team that you got on with the most, that you didn't expect, that you wouldn't normally maybe associate with?
James.
I got on really well with Jay. Yeah, like we were just like, we'd talk all the time, and like he was my toilet buddy. And like, yeah, he was probably one of the people I got on with most in there, and he would kind of keep himself to himself, and so would I, and like we'd spend quite a lot of time sleeping, whereas everyone else would kind of be chatting, and I was just trying to get like as much rest as possible. And obviously me and Beth got on loads in there, and then when both of those, Beth and Jay, went on the same day, it kind of left me with like nobody in there. Well, like I'd spoken to everyone else obviously also, but they took away like the two people I was closest to, which kind of, it put me in a situation where I could either give up or like go on stronger and kind of like try and push all my effort into doing it for me then. And I think that's what I did, and that's why I got a bit further, because I was just more determined after that.
Yeah, I think it helped actually, didn't it?
Yeah, because I was just like honed in then. It was like, right, Beth's gone, I'm just going to hone in on like what I need to do.
I really got on with James as well. You've had him on the podcast. I watched it the other day, James Priestley. He was I never really got to know him. There's something more, and obviously now we know because his like whole story came out, and he never gave that away. But like I related to him in some sort of way, and I heard him talking about mental health on your podcast, and it's because we have the same sort of attitude. Yeah, and he's just cool, like just a bit of a badass. We had the night watch together. I got on with him really well. He gave me half his orange at one point. It was just because I was like, I'm so hungry.
The ultimate test of friendship is when you give someone their food, your food.
Carry him up the mountains, though. I think I deserve that.
I was going to say that challenge is carrying people through. You know, you had to just have people on your back.
Yeah,
that was fucking dreadful.
I was carrying men all the time. It kind of annoyed me a little bit because all the time, like there was loads of other women that were carrying other women. Straight away, I was carrying men, and it's not because of the gender. It's because they're like 80 to 100 kilos, and the women are like 40 to 60 kilos. So I'm carrying like James. He's what did he say? He's like 14 stone. He's nearly 100 kilos basically.
He's a fucking guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah. So that was hard, but I did it. And I didn't know I could do that going in, so it gave me...
That was the worst beasting, wasn't it? It was definitely the worst.
Yeah.
We thought that was a sickener, but it wasn't, was it?
No, that was a sickener, yeah.
Okay.
What's the difference between beasting and a sickener?
So the sickener, they basically just carry on until a certain amount of people pull out or get injured. So it's continuous until that number they have in their head have gone. But they don't tell us anything. So we had no idea which one was the sickener at the time. So we didn't know that it would continue until 4 or 5 people dropped out. So we just thought it was a horrific beasting.
Yeah. And the beastings, they often happen in the evening or like 4 a.m. or something. And it's they're like more like workouts, like clean and jerking a barrel or like holding a log and doing bicep curls with it, press ups, burpees, and the gravel. But yeah, both equally horrible.
What's the worst thing then? Is the worst thing the physically doing it, or the mentally not knowing when it will end?
Not knowing when it will end, definitely, because like you can endure a certain amount of like pain. If you know there's an end point, you can just keep going, and you're like, right, when we get there it's over. But you never knew. Like that was the hardest thing for me, really, not knowing anything, from not knowing when we had to wake up to not knowing when we would be woken up for a beasting or when our next task was and when anything would end. That was definitely the hardest thing, because you just can't get to terms with it in your head.
You're constantly on edge, like when you're back in even in the lodgings, like you never know when you're going to be out again, or if you can even get changed or take your boots off, because you might be straight out that door immediately being screamed at because you've not got your boots on or whatever. So I think that has like a toll on almost like your adrenal system, because you're constantly like in that fight or flight, and I think that was hard. Yeah,
it's interesting. Do you know, it's one of the most fascinating programs. Like I love to watch it. It's like a massive social experiment.
Yeah.
But what's the biggest lesson you learned about yourselves going on there?
One of those, like the thing that you brought up a minute ago, actually, that like the kind of not knowing when things are gonna end, and that I have the capacity to sort of mentally switch off from that. Like I've noticed in CrossFit recently, I've been training at home, but I've not had the clock that I normally have, or I've not necessarily had something visual that will tell me when the workout can end. And I've been able to kind of lock into that a bit more. And I'm like, I don't care when it's going to end. I'm going to continue until I hear that bell. And it's like, I'm just going to keep going. And that's something that I got from the show. And also like just knowing that I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I was, like carrying like 100 kilos up a mountain. And like when I came back, I started using some of the men's weights, and I've done a bit more running. Yeah, like physically, it's given me a lot that I know I can do now. And the fighting a guy, that helped me get over a huge part of my life that I'd not really dealt with, and hadn't planned to deal with either. So yeah, that gave me something back.
What about you, Ellie?
Again with me, because I'm quite a control freak, it taught me that I didn't have to be in control all the time, and like actually if someone relinquishes control from me, I can deal with it and I'm fine with it. Because at home and like at work, I have to be in control of everything. So yeah, it really taught me that, and it just taught me that I can actually push myself for me, whereas I compete quite a lot in team games and like I'll push myself for someone else, so I won't want to let them down. But before the show I'd quite easily let myself down and just like give up, but I now like I'll push myself further and like really focus on doing something for me.
Do you have that, like, it's never going to be as bad as well? Like, you kind of remember some of the really hard, like, things that we did, and you're in the middle of a CrossFit workout, and you're like, it's never going to be as bad as that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Nice.
What I wanted to say is, yeah, like that point that you guys have just made about doing anything I think that people do that's really tough after it. Yeah, you compare it to other things and you're like, oh, this is not as bad as this compared to that. So like into your lives, is there any lessons that you guys have taken out of that you try to mold into your life and kind of remind yourself about every day? Like any lessons that you've got out of putting yourself to the ultimate test physically and mentally? Is there anything that you've learned now that you'd tell your older self if you could go back to the past kind of thing?
Limit myself, I think, by like, because I think I had these, like, training in the same sport for quite a while, you start to kind of settle, like, you're like, this is what I'm capable of, I know what I'm capable of, but it made me realise I was capable of so much more. So it's kind of like never sort of settling with what I think, or never believing what I think I'm capable of. I'm always capable of more than I actually think.
Yeah, just like you could, like I now know that I can push myself so much further than I thought I could before. Like I can go way beyond the limits that I thought I had, and like go into that pain cave and just get like a lot further than I thought I actually could.
And also for me as well, because it was the reason I did it, the big test of my mental health and whether I could be put in the massive stressful situation, like one of the biggest stressful situations I could put myself in, that might push me over that edge again and cause a relapse in my mental health. And it didn't, and I was fine, and I coped with it in the same way that I've been coping in the last couple of years. And it made me think that maybe I'm always going to be okay now, and I actually am in control of it. Yeah, it's made me more confident that I know how to get myself out of that hole if I ever get into it, and deal with those mental battles better.
No, that's a great point, and I think that's definitely something that I feel as all humans on the planet, like we don't. Well, I think a lot of us never get to actually realise how far our boundaries actually are, and some of the things that we can accomplish until we're actually forced to do them. And you guys are a great example of that, because you were forced to do it and you've gone and done it, and that'll only supplement what you do now moving forward with your training, your goals, or whatever that is. Sorry, James, you was going to say before?
No, do you know what? You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, like, does that now put kind of life into perspective for you, and know that, you know, maybe life's a bit too comfortable now for people, and we don't really have to push ourselves too much if we don't really want to, and life can be quite easy if you want it to be easy in a general sense. It's come up on the.
There's a lot of places to hide, right? Isn't there?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I think both of us, though, we have quite stressful jobs in many ways, and I think it's definitely helped me cope with stressful situations better, because again, it's like not bad, and like my stress levels has been taken so high, like everything else doesn't feel as bad anymore. And I got back to work, and it was like a relief, even though like it's chaotic where I work, but yeah, it was a relief even to be back there in what a lot of people would call like some of the most stressful workplaces. But yeah,
I'm still not good at dealing with stress.
Not that
round 2 on the show.
I'm still terrible at dealing with stress. I've recently been moving house in the middle of this coronavirus situation, probably one of the most stressful times to move house, and yeah, I couldn't bring anything from SAS to help me with that, I don't think.
Do you know what, guys? We're about to get cut off because we don't pay for the Zoom premium. So I can see it ticking away on there. What we'll do is I'm going to put it on pause and we'll call you back and we'll go into part 2 of the show.
Cool.
All right. We're back in.
It's quite cool, actually. It's good practice. I've got to do some Zoom lessons this week.
Oh, are you doing school stuff through?
Yeah. I've got to teach art via Zoom on Thursday.
Are you guys working in this period then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working from home still at the moment, which is a nightmare, but yeah, still going.
You still got boxes to unpack?
Yeah, yeah, it's still not like either.
All right. Right. I've got one more question and we'll kick off with the lockdown questions. So I wanted to ask you, we ask everyone, what's it like to be interviewed and kind of grilled by the DS? What's it really like?
I didn't really mind it. Like, they're quite scary because they're like these male authority figures. But in my job, I deal with a lot of like older men who have a lot of power, like solicitors, barristers, that kind of thing. So I have the experience anyway dealing with like men of authority. So it didn't really faze me. But again, I think they are quite scary at the same time. But yeah, I didn't really let it faze me, to be honest.
I found them quite scary when they were shouting at me, but not when they were doing the interviews. Like I've had quite a journey and I'm really open about that and I'll talk about that freely. And you see them like trying to dig and trying to find out why people are the way they are, but I'll just talk about it. And I think that's what they kept getting back. Like they'd ask me questions and I'd answer them honestly, and they don't think they expected that. And I'm fine talking about it. And I think they expected me to be less fine with it and like a bit more anxious about talking about who I am and how I feel, and I'm fine with that. So I didn't find it that scary, really.
Yeah, it's interesting how they take people, because we had Mark on, they took to him really well. Then we had Rick Stevens on, they didn't fucking like him at all. But then he did, like me and Julian were joking, like he did drop one of his friends off a bridge, so we kind of
yeah.
And then who else have we had that they got on with? And then James, he didn't really like James because they felt like he just wouldn't open up to them and he wasn't really forthcoming. So I think they appreciate that honesty. Is that what you would say?
No.
Yeah.
No,
probably
like
disarmed him. They had nothing to.
Didn't I? So and I still don't know the reason why I got cut. Really, they've never told me, or and literally the day they cut me, they told me I was one of the strongest in there, and that they can't wait to see me like progress and all this sort of stuff. And then they were like, "You're out," and no explanation. So they mustn't have liked me. I don't really know why though, but I know I was a bit too smiley and maybe a bit too open. I don't know.
Maybe you never know. Maybe you will know one day. But
yeah. Well, I've asked. I tried to ask Ant Middleton on his live feed. He didn't really give an answer. And they said I was like mentally and physically one of the strongest. So you can't fall back on either of those. I'm like fine if it's the personality thing. That's totally fine. I would like to know, but I don't think I ever will. So could just be that it's more of a TV thing. Not sure. But yeah, maybe it was that they don't like that I talk about my that I open up so much. Maybe they saw that as a weakness. That was something I thought maybe. Don't know.
Do you know, on that note, with being open about your mental health and being able to speak about it, at the time where you were going through your difficult time, were you able to open up to your sister about that, or did she kind of see the signs and she came to your help?
No, she wasn't open.
I didn't know.
No.
I had no idea what I was going through at all. And actually I've got bipolar disorder, which is quite, so I struggled more with like the mania side of it than I did the depression side of it. So I'd like lock myself away for periods of time, but people think you feel sad when you're depressed, but I felt nothing at all. It was just emptiness. Like I just had no emotions. And then I'd have the other side of the spectrum, which is like the mania. And I just felt like I could achieve anything and I was on top of the world and I go out and party and I was everyone's best friend and I would just like go off and party for days and then everything would come crashing down and I didn't know what that was. So, and I couldn't really communicate that in any other way other than like I was feeling really great and then I felt nothing. So it wasn't until the diagnosis that it made me realise that it was mental health that I was struggling with, because I felt like I was just a bit up and down and then that was my personality. So turns out it's not.
Wow. And on the flip side of that coin, Ellie, was there a point where you thought, oh, I've got to intervene here, I've got to say something, or when did you see that you have to step in?
Literally, like, she was just on this massive downward spiral, and she gained a lot of weight, and she was just so angry at everyone. And me and my mum were, like, at the time, just really concerned about her, and we knew that we had to do something, but we didn't really know the way in. So yeah, I think it was definitely difficult to get her to open up for that first step. But as soon as we did, then it was just like the old Beth was back. And
Ellie had kind of come into it at the right time, though. So at the time when Ellie and Mum came up with the whole idea to get me back into the gym, I'd just been told by the psychiatrist that basically the medication they were trying me on wasn't working very well, and they're going to try me on more stuff, but nothing seemed to be working the way they want it to. And they were like, oh, you could try lifestyle changes. And I'm like, why is this not the first thing you told me? So I went straight into that. I'm like, okay, so they told me to sort out my sleep, make sure I was sleeping enough but not too much, sort out my diet, make sure I was eating vegetables, and then exercise. And then Ellie at that point was like, do you want to start coming to our gym? And I'd just been told that that was how I could fix my mental health. So at that point I was open to it. It just clicked at the right time. But yeah, it was like a happy accident, really. But the reason I talk about my mental health more now is because I think there's probably someone out there that's experiencing the same fluctuations in mood like I did, but they don't know what it is either. So maybe seeing somebody on social media that has it, that talks about it freely, they might see that in them, and then that will get them to go and get some help and see their doctor and say, or do a mood diary and say, this is what's happening, what's going on here. So yeah.
Did you feel like the only person that had this issue at the time? Did you feel like, oh, no one could relate to this? How could anyone feel like this?
Absolutely, yeah. And it affects people very differently as well. And the media perception of bipolar disorder is completely wrong. Like, it's not up and down in a day. It's so it can be weeks or it can be months. It's different for everybody. For me, I was depressed for about a week, and then I'd be up to a month. So yeah, it completely goes against what you think it's supposed to be. Yeah, so I think there's definitely people out there that won't know. And I thought I was alone. I didn't realise that anybody felt the same way I did, because I wasn't aware of what the disorder was.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a topic that came up on this podcast like absolutely by accident. Like, it was in no way, shape or form even planning to discuss it with any guest, and then it just came up organically. And it's like educated us along the way. Like, we started this podcast when we were 26, so like similar age to you guys. I'm 28 now, and
cool.
It's been like a bit of a journey of learning. Like at the time, when it first started, I used to have that shitty mentality of, oh, it's just, you can just get over it. You'll be fine. Like, you can deal with it. It's no problem.
I had that mentality at a point.
Yeah, you meet all these different people with all these different perspectives. They all look different. They're like boxers, you know, like super successful business people, solicitors, whatever, all walks of life. And then you realise that, yeah, everyone's actually just fucking dealing with it. And it was
that is a sign. Like, a lot of us, and me included, bury ourselves in things that we use as an escape. Like, for me, it can be fitness or business. It was before. And I think that's why a lot of them are boxers, or they have those amazing careers, because they've tried to hide from how they feel by burying themselves in work or in sport or something else, or food in my case as well. So
cheesecake,
yeah, a lot of cheesecake.
If you're gonna do it with something nice, right?
It doesn't feel nice after, though.
We've all been there. All right, so it is called the lockdown series because we are fucking locked down.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 questions for you guys. So who wants to go first with the first question? So if you can choose any 2 people, dead or alive, to be locked down with in this period, who
like
would
famous
it be?
people, or like people,
whoever you want. People have done the safe bet. They've gone for their wife, or they've gone for like obscure ones like Albert Einstein and, you know, random stuff like that. So literally whoever you want.
I'll say people that other people know, like, because I've been watching a lot of YouTube, as I'm sure everybody has, as we're like bored. Ross Edgley, he's awesome.
I was gonna say.
Wait, okay.
Yeah.
And also Eddie Hall. I've been watching some of his lockdown videos. I might nick both of yours. Yeah, they're just like badasses, and I like the way that Ross Edgley kind of thinks about fitness in so many different ways, and he's not biased about any different kind of fitness. He like meets strongmen, takes something from them, and meets like swimmers and takes something from them, and gymnasts, and I like that. And I think and also I just want to train constantly while we're locked down, so I think they would train with me.
Solid.
Great shouts.
I would say again Ross Edgley, because he's just this incredible person who's very motivated and he likes to try different things, and just it's very exciting, I think, way to live. And I'd also say Sam Briggs, who is a CrossFit athlete. You probably haven't heard of her, but she's from Manchester and she's just amazing. She's just this incredible, strong woman. I'm just really inspired by her, and I think it would be very cool to be locked down with her as well.
Yeah.
Nice. If you guys could recommend a book, documentary, a movie for our listeners to listen to during this isolation time, what would it be?
I'll
And
do
why
Ross
as well?
Edgley's book actually, because I've been reading that quite a bit, and it will be really helpful for people in this time, because it's the fittest book, and it's all about fitness in lots of different ways, and he goes through all the stories about when he's visited strongmen. So it's definitely one to read if you want to get fitter, change your lifestyle, think about nutrition or any of that sort of stuff. It's kind of like it's so packed full of information. It's really good, and I think it's about 10 quid on Amazon because it's quite old now. So yeah.
Nice.
I would say probably Jason Fox's book, actually, which kind of goes in with this podcast, because he talks quite a lot about his mental health and struggling with when he was in the army and that kind of stuff. And it's just, I've read all of the DS books, and I think that's probably my favourite one, just because
Mine too.
he talks about really real stuff, and it's very
So
like
good.
you don't realise people like him have struggled with things like that, and it's quite nice to read about it and read about how he's overcome it.
Nice. So next question is, what are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do when lockdown is over?
I'm going to go to the gym. I want to go to the gym now. Sounds really
I'm going
sad.
to the next competition as well. Well, lots of our competitions have been cancelled because they're like events, aren't they? So I want to compete.
Yeah, I really miss my CrossFit box. Like, all of our friends go there, so it's like at the same time as training, we'll be with all of our friends and like see people we haven't seen in like months now, and
Yeah, the gyms are going to be heaving once this
yeah, it's going to
is
be like
done,
January.
So. Yeah, it is. It might actually last more than a month this time, so hopefully it does.
Yeah.
Third question. What is the third question?
Oh no.
There we go. I remember it now. So have you guys set a goal for yourself that you want to come out with by the end of this lockdown?
Try not to put on weight.
Say that.
I know I want to improve my gymnastics. That's one of my main goals. Like, I've got a bar here that I can do like muscle ups on, and my muscle ups probably my weakest out of CrossFit. So that's something I'm trying to improve. And also I'm trying to get in control of my diet.
Nice. Muscle ups.
Yeah, mine wouldn't be trying not to put on weight, because that's a silly goal to have, because weight doesn't. But it would be to like just continue training and continue like trying to improve. And at the moment I can't do much gymnastics because I don't have a pull-up rig or anything, but I've ordered one, so hopefully I'll have one soon. So depending on how long this lasts, improve my gymnastics.
Nice.
You're really saying that because I said that. You can do handstands.
Yeah. Mm-mm. Every time they're programmed, I just avoid them at the moment.
Yeah, do you know, I've seen quite a lot of all the CrossFitters there. It's like they're all like doing handstands and all these crazy movements. I've not done much of CrossFit. Have you, James? Have you?
We had a guest on when we started last year, called Will, and he kept getting onto us like, you need to come and do CrossFit with us, but we're gonna get into it, and Go
Yeah,
do a
let's
little
give it a try.
CrossFit.
It's fun. Do you know what as well? As we're all locked down and obviously all watching Netflix, there's Redeemed and Dominant, which is on Netflix, and they've also got the new film out, which is The Fittest, but I think that's only on iTunes. But they're really good if you want to know.
Yeah, that's a documentary.
What's the one on
Yeah.
Netflix called? I'm gonna check that out.
Redeemed and Dominant. And there's also Fittest in Dubai. That's new on Netflix. That's just come out this week. But they're all done by the Buttery Bros. They're on YouTube. They're really good to follow as well. And they're just like camera guys, but they also do CrossFit. They're not elite CrossFitters. They're like more average CrossFitters, but they film more the elite CrossFitters.
And quite a lot of the stuff they do in those documentaries, like some of the movements, CrossFit movements, are very easy to do at home because you don't need a lot of equipment, like maybe like a couple of dumbbells and you can do most of them, and like body weight stuff and just odd object stuff. So quite a lot of it, for any people who are watching, it is something you can do at home if you want to still stay fit.
Yeah, and if they need a bit of motivation as well, that's what I watched to motivate me to go and train. Because they're just so cool.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, ladies, it's been awesome having you on. Thank you for taking the time to come on. And if you guys hang on, we'll have a quick chat with you as well after this.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing. If people want to find you, they want to ask you guys a couple of questions, follow you on your socials, where can they go to do that?
Mine's Ellie Gregor, just ELLIEGREGOR.
And is that on Insta?
And mine's Sporty Beth CF on Instagram. So Sporty Beth and then CF, which is for CrossFit. And I've also got a little plug. I've got an ebook out as well based on my training for SAS. It's a bit crazy though. I realised I've written it, and I'm not sure people will want to follow it. If they do want to follow it, they can, but it's a bit mad because I did a lot of running with really heavy weights.
All right.
It sounds like a challenge, that, James. Yeah, that we might have to do.
Now you go.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on again.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes.